Well, good day, my friends. We are headed towards Pittsburgh. Hope you're all having a great day. Your old pal Jordan the Lion, your old pal Ja. We're going to show you some crazy stuff today. We're going to show you some crooners in a McDonald's. What? Daze with Jordan the Lion. And you all, it begins right now. Ja, you ready to see some crooners? Talk about some crooners? So we finally made our way to Canonsburg for our vlog today. And you can see that their town motto is America's small town music capital. Let's go visit some statues of legends. Traveled a little further down the road, and to my surprise, we found that an Olympian was from here. Bill Schmidt, bronze medalist in the javelin, 1972 Munich. Says he was 1970 All-American, USA national champion. I like at the very top they put flames, the Olympic flames, the torches. Nice. Congratulations, Bill. So check this out. This is the first thing that I saw when I made it into the downtown area. This is the municipal building over here. And this sign says that Dr. Jonathan Letterman, a military surgeon, he's credited with establishing modern methods of battlefield medical management. During the Civil War, he designed a medical supply wagon prototype, established triage procedures, and instituted an efficient system for procuring supplies and evacuating patients from the battlefield, still in use today. He founded the Letterman Hospital at Gettysburg, was treated wounded on both sides, and his childhood home was here. Wow, pretty amazing. Now let me show you, they have a statue to another famous resident here in town. This is all to the veterans right here. And the building over here is actually dedicated to John F. Kennedy, the 35th president. And this is the Korea-Vietnam Memorial. But right over here, this is a pretty cool, crazy, interesting story in my opinion. This is a statue of Perry Como. His name was Pietrino Como. He went by Perry. It says, "To this place God has brought me, Perry Como." Perry was from this town. He was one of 13 children. His parents were Italian immigrants, and his father loved music, had an organ, and insisted that even though they didn't have a lot of money because he worked at the mill, that all of his children would take music lessons. Perry would work his way over to the organ when he was 4 years old, and he would play around and try and imitate the sounds that he had heard. But by the time he was 10, he started working in a barber shop. Yep, he had his first job at 10. He started working in a barber shop here in town and would stand on crates to do the haircuts, and eventually got so good he got his own chair and had his own clients. And eventually, after 2 or 3 years, his father got really sick and wasn't able to work anymore, so he and his brothers all started working harder to provide for the family, and he ended up getting an offer to open his own barbershop. So that's what he did. He opened his own barbershop here in town, even had his own employees. He was only 14 years old at the time. How crazy is that? He started singing in bands while he was here in town, and then eventually his uncle worked at a hotel and had a barbershop there, and it was kind of close to Cleveland, and it was really heavily attended by traveling musicians, and it had a really good clientele. So he told Perry that he should come up there. So Perry went up that direction and was working there, making a lot of money as a barber again. And then one night, he and his friends and his girlfriend went out for a night on the town, and they saw a band performing, and the leader of the band said, "Hey, if anybody thinks they have any talent, wants to be our new singer, come on up and do it." And his friends persuaded him to get up there and sing. He did, and about a week later, he was offered the job. That took him on to eventually 5 Emmy nominations. He signed a record deal and stayed with the same record company believe it was Columbia, for 44 years. Tons and tons of hits. The guy is just an absolute legend. And he wasn't even buried here. I was kind of surprised by that. You would think with his family lineage and everything being here that he would want his final resting place here, but no, it's in Florida. Now, part of the reason I wanted to come to this town was because I had heard they had this amazing Perry Como singing statue. But this is not it. Yeah, this is not the singing statue. They actually have another famous person from here in town, another crooner, another singer. And I was looking around on the maps and saw that that person has a street named after them, a very small street. And I saw in my research that in this town they have a singing statue of Perry and that person. And when I found the address, I was shocked at where these statues are located. So let's go find them. And look, you can see family members have donated. Perry's wife has a memorial there. And then you see Peter, Christopher, David, Paul. And a goofy little piece of trivia, if you know of the cult film Windy City Heat, or you know who Perry Caravello is, Perry has his own crazy show on YouTube, and Perry actually divulged that he was named after Perry Como. His mother was a huge Perry Como fan and named him after Perry Como. Interesting enough, when he was offered the job, he wasn't really sure if he should take the singing gig. He was a good barber and he was making good money, so he came back here to town and asked his dad what he thought. His dad said, you should definitely take the singing because you may never get that opportunity or a try for that again. So he did do it and then married his girlfriend, Roselle. So right here we see a street sign for Bobby Vinton. Bobby Vinton was from this town as well. So when I found the address for where the statues were, it kept coming up as McDonald's. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because I looked all over the property online. I couldn't find any statues around McDonald's. So then it dawned on me, they're probably inside. So I looked at the photos and sure enough. So right up there with things you may never see again in your life. If you walk in here, they used to be in here. Let's see if they still are. So they're gone. They used to be right here. There was like one right here. It was the bust of Bobby Vinton and Perry Como right here. And I was asking, like, what happened? They said, we renovated this place and they took them away. They said, maybe if you go to the police station, they may know where they're at. But they said this whole restaurant used to be themed in Perry Como and Bobby Vinton, and they did a massive renovation and got rid of everything. What a bummer. But they did say if I go out through the drive-thru, there's a rock with his image carved into it. So let's see if we can find it. Sure enough, look at this. As you're going through the drive-thru, right here, they have Bobby Vinton carved here. And then over here is welcome to Canonsburg, home of Bobby Vinton, Perry Como, and the 4 coins. And then right over here is the Perry Como. Interesting. Well, at least they have this. I'm just bummed because singing Bobby Vinton and Perry Como statues, that's what brought me to the town. I can't imagine just getting rid of something that makes your McDonald's so unique. I mean, it's a draw, I would think, a tourist attraction. Bad news is I went to the Chamber of Commerce to ask about the statues and they already closed for the day. The one person I talked to said he was relatively new in town and didn't know. What he did tell me is if I came over here to Pike Street and looked at the grates around all the trees that line this, they're all song titles from people from this town. So there you can see When You Were Sweet 16 by Perry Como. Looked, I could not find the address for where his barber shops were. Here's another one though. Because by Perry Como, 1948. This one is Surrender by Perry Como. 1949's Dreamer's Holiday, Perry Como. Till the End of Time, Perry Como. Guy had tons and tons and tons of hits. Look at this old McCrory store. God, that takes you back, doesn't it? You can see where the old signage was right up there. McCrory. They have just absolutely tons and tons of antique stores here on this street. Can't help but look at these things and wonder if any of these came from his family, you know? You just never know. When I was inside there, I did ask if the guy knew where the barbershop used to be or where Perry's childhood home was. He said he wasn't sure, but I did some digging. I think I might have found something. So everywhere I looked, I could not find any listing for his house, but I started looking in depth as much as I could for his parents' history, and I found out that his father actually ended up dying in 1945 when Perry was recording hits. His father was only 68, and he died here at this house, which makes me think that this probably would have been Perry's childhood home. For a man who worked that hard, he had 13 kids and all that, I could see this being a family home, and especially if he passed away at the age of 68, this definitely could have been it. I don't know for sure, but I would tend to think so. If not, it could have been a home that Perry bought his parents once he started having hits. So here you can see that they named a street after Perry, Como Street. And I read online that this used to be 3rd Street and that Perry's first home was on 3rd Street. So now I know where his very first childhood home was. Let's go there. And this Como Street is right at the end of the house that I just showed you that I thought. That very well could have been the house they moved into in 1933, but we're going to the house that he lived, his childhood home, until 1933. So this house right here on the corner, that was it. 305, this used to be 3rd Street. It's now Perry Como Street. 1977, they changed the name of the road, but this was apparently his childhood home. The family home he was born in 1912, I believe, and said that it was his home until 1933, so quite a while. So definitely the parents would have moved afterward, but look, the address, somebody's even got it right here on the side. Not a huge place, but this town had a big Italian and Polish population. His family was Italian. He became successful as an inspiration for Bobby Vinton, who was Polish from this town. So it's kind of amazing what some immigrant families, like we all were at one point, could do. Very cool. Doesn't look like anybody's living there. Just from what I can see through the windows, it looks like maybe it's getting renovated. But very cool. Perry Como, wow. Well, I think I figured out a little bit. I was confused. I thought that the Perry Como and Bobby Vinton statues inside the McDonald's were the ones that sang. Apparently it was the Perry Como statue that we saw out in front of the police station. That one used to sing, and it sang for 10 years, and then all of a sudden they shut it off for some reason. So I don't know why it wasn't singing or why it doesn't sing anymore, but that's the one that sang. The two that were in McDonald's, nobody seems to really know what happened to them. And we may or may not have seen Perry Como's childhood home. I don't know. That was our day in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Kind of a fun day, I thought, but man, what a wacky day. Have a great night. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.